and welcome. My name is Vicky Washay, and this is a Wealthy Life podcast. And I'm recording here at a private game reserve, sort of where have we decided this is north of Durban, I think. And what I wanted to talk about today is something that I touched on another podcast, which is about having a guide, having someone with you who knows. If you could see the vista, and maybe I'll turn around, and if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to have a look when I finish. I'll have a spin round and just show you where we've been staying. But if you can imagine, I've got acres and acres, miles and miles, kilometers and kilometers of wildlife out there. That's the terrain. And out there are the hidden gems, the leopards, the cheetahs, the lions, the rhino, everybody going about their business. And I'm going to go out there and try and find them. If you do not understand the environment that you're working in, it can be very difficult to find anything. Even with an expert guide, we can spend maybe an hour and see nothing. So having somebody who knows what's going on, who understands the environment, who's got the experience, is absolutely crucial. Now, obviously on a game drive, then you usually go to a game reserve and you are taken on a guided tour, just because otherwise they would be losing all of the residents and all of the visitors as they either got lost out there or got eaten. We've come to a private reserve, which has given us our own cook and our own driver, so that we've had that opportunity to work alongside him, to let him know what it is that we're looking for. Now, does this start to sound familiar? So in that previous podcast, I was saying, and I talked to you about the guide that we had when we went on the walk up into the mountains in the Drakensberg. Without that guide, I know for a fact that we would have turned round, that we would have never made it to our destination. The guide set the path, set the pace. We did go as slow. This is the disadvantage, if you like. We did go as slow as the slowest person because he needs to keep the group together. But we all got there because that was his job, to motivate us, to keep us going, to keep us on the right path, and to get us to our destination. And if you like, that's very similar to any form of sort of group coaching experience. You know, you're in a group, you know what you're heading for, and there is someone there making sure that you get there at the end. The experience that you have with a game drive, particularly when you do a private game drive that we had, if you like, you could almost say that it's a cross between mentoring, business development, if you like, that type of thing, developing your experience, a cross between mentoring and sourcing. So when, for example, I source properties, I know that I'm looking for a house that is like a leopard, a cheetah, a lion, or a rhino, and I know where to find it roughly. I can do searching in that area. I know the smells. I know the signs. I can read the paw prints and the droppings and everything else, so that I can find the beast that I'm looking for. And that's effectively what our driver did for us. It was just extraordinary. Not only is he driving a vehicle at a reasonable pace through rugged terrain, slowing for every bump, missing every rock, reminding us to duck for every branch when we were getting too close to the branches because there were all these thorn bushes. But he was also looking to the left, to the right, in front, sometimes turning his head behind, looking into the bush to find the beasts that we wanted to see. He was using his sense of smell. There was one point where we came across the odor of something dead, and he licked his finger and he put it in the air, and I thought, goodness me, is he going to pick up I was tired at the time. I will give myself this benefit of doubt. I thought that he was going to pick up the morsels of dead scent on his finger and then lick it again, but of course what he was checking for wind direction and working coming from over there, then that must be where the dead creature is, because obviously we're downwind of it. And when we know that there's been a kill, you know that there is something predatory something big in the area, and then you can start to look for them. But equally, he was paying attention to the behavior of the other animals. Were the birds distressed? And at one point, what we saw was some, I don't know, 20 or 30 vultures circling. Obviously, they were using the thermocline to keep their height. But he said, watch, every so often, one will dunk down, one will drop out of the sky. And what they're doing is they're coming down, and then they are in the branches of the tree. And what they're doing is they're sitting there and they're waiting. And again, this was very reminiscent of working in the property market. Everybody's just sitting there waiting. And then when one vulture goes down to eat off the carcass, one vulture is brave enough to absolutely go for it, all the others follow. And so there are all of these parallels between this wildlife, this game life, from the environmental to the animal behavior, to the skills of the staff and the drivers and the people that run the resort, right the way through to looking at the plants, the climate, the waterfall, the fall of water, the rainwater, everything. There are just parallels all over. And if you can start to see this, then you can find a lesson. And the reason I'm going to say this to you is because you have your conscious mind, the one that is looking around at the moment. Hopefully you are consciously listening to what I'm saying. But at the same time, if you're driving the car, you'll be watching where you're driving. If you're sitting at home, you might be preparing dinner or something else. So you're often doing two things at once. But in the background, there is part of your mind making sure that your muscles are tight so you can stand up, sit down, that you're blinking your eyes, that you're beating your heart, that you're breathing in and processing oxygen. So that's going on. And then in the middle there, in the middle between the conscious mind and obviously that sort of more functional, sometimes called the reptilian brain, that's doing all the basic stuff to keep you alive, there's this part of your mind that is going, right, well, hold on a second. I know that you were thinking about this. I'm constantly going to be scanning my environment to see if I can find signs of. So I'm looking for a rhino, and part of me is looking for rhino shape, even though I might be speaking to the guide at the time. And the guide is constantly scouring for rhino shape, even though he's driving, using his senses and talking to me. He's constantly scanning for rhino shape. And when that happens, when that subconscious clocks that shape, your eyes then go, right, I'm drawn to that shape. I'm going to pay attention to it and see if that is a rhino or whatever it is that you're looking for. So if you can start to see the parallels between, for me, it's being here on safari, but it could be for you being at home. It could be that you're going out for a walk. You're taking out the dogs for a walk. And if you can start to observe parallels in the walk that you take, either you and how you're walking, or how the dog's behaving, or potentially what you're seeing, what you can do is connect into that part of your mind and go, here's a parallel. Where's the lesson? What could I learn from this parallel to what I want to achieve in another environment? So here we've been looking for wildlife. What can I learn from looking at the wildlife to when I am looking to find property deals? If I am, well, which of course, my mind doesn't tend to switch off, but I'm here on the homestead, if you like, where we're staying, and I'm looking at their parallels of how they run their business. So I'm asking the guide, do you have quiet periods? And then thinking, why do they have a quiet period? They have a quiet period in January, March, he said, and there are two reasons. People have often run out of money after the Christmas period and maybe the New Year visit, but also it's very, very hot here. As I say, we're in the Zululand, so January, February, March is incredibly hot, but also they have wet summers. So it's very wet, which doesn't make it pleasant to go looking for creatures if you're sitting in an open top van. But also the vegetation grows. So it gets greener, it gets thicker, and then it's very difficult to see through. So again, hang on a second. So there are environmental factors, there are financial factors, and those affect the market. Where can I see the parallels in my life? We have slow periods in the housing market. So that's what I'm saying. You can see parallels everywhere once you understand that there are parallels. And one book I'm going to refer you back to, which is The Celestine Prophecy by a guy called James Redfield. And he talked in that story about the parallels. All the messages are here for you. So if, for example, you're struggling in anything, whether it's deciding that you want to invest in property, deciding that you want to start a business, deciding that you want to take the business that you've got to the next level, or whether you want to scale back, whether you need to change something else that you're doing in order to then be able to achieve the life that you want to achieve, whatever it is, as you start to become aware of these things, the answers are around you all the time, but sometimes they'll come to you as metaphors. And that's why when you listen to my podcast, a lot of the time it's very metaphor driven, because I see metaphors all the time. I'm always seeing these stories and these reminders of what I want to achieve in my life. It's sort of the way I process information. And it just means every day I'm learning something. Every day I'm reminded of something that I know that maybe I don't apply yet, or that I know and that I had forgotten, or that I know and now is relevant in a different context. So I want you to think about, do you want to be part of a group? Do you just need motivation? You know what your goal is. So if you get with the right group, someone can motivate you, keep you even maybe accountable, and you can achieve your goals. Or are you in a position where you want someone who's going to work more closely with you? Someone who's going to use all of their senses and all of their experience of the environment to be able to help you achieve what you want. And whether that is to learn to do it yourself, which of course I've been very tempted to become a drive guide, or whether it's someone to do it for you, to find the creatures, to find the properties for you, sourcing, which I do for a lot of my clients. What is it that you want, and who is the right person to support you? Because as I said in that previous podcast, getting someone to help you is going to make your journey so much easier. Why do it the hard way when you could do it the easy way? So that's what I want to leave you with. Two things. Why do it the hard way when you can do it the easy way? Are you using all of your senses? Are you aware of the metaphors, the messages that are all around you that could remind you of what you know, help you focus on what you need to focus on, maybe even just straightforward teach you a lesson that you could apply in a different circumstance? Whatever it is, you know that I'm always going to be here to help you. My name's Vicky Wauchet. You can Google me if you can spell my name. You can find me through the podcast A Wealthy Life. You can find me through the YouTube channel. You can find me on Facebook. I'm not uber keen on LinkedIn, but I am there. So there are plenty of ways that you can get in touch, and I would be happy to help you, even if it just starts as a 30-minute call so that you can talk through your thoughts and get some clarity about what the next step might be for you to then take the next step and the next step and the next step. So as always, I hope that I've been able to give you some whoosh through these conversations, and that whoosh is often through metaphor, often direct through lessons, and sometimes very clearly through a set of actions that I want you to take. And if there's a set of actions that I want you to take from this podcast, go read the book A Celestine Prophecy if you haven't. But be aware that all around you, once you understand this, the lessons are there for you. The messages are there for you. The opportunities are there for you. You just need to look and be more aware, and then take those lessons and apply them into your personal life, apply them to the goals that you want to achieve, whether it's to do with weight loss or relationships or business development or property investment. The lessons will be there for you. And I wish you every success. Let me just do a little spin round now so that you can see where I've been sitting under another one of the thorn bushes. But I've been watching the game drives go past. The warthogs have been behind me. These are the houses that we've been staying in. There are 4 of these, but we've had the whole place to ourselves. There under that tree was our dining area, and under the smaller tree where we had a fire last night. Now, if I show you around here, the idea to keep the animals out like this works are all these wooden fences. You can see sort of bits of trees that have been banged into the ground to make the fences that are around us. But as I say, as I've sat here, we've had 2 huge warthogs go past. There are deer, there are birds sitting down here by the side of me. And as I look out, and that's what I'll show you in just a second, I can see that there's a wildebeest just there. There are buck there. I've seen the 3 guides walking back who have the 2 elephants that we're going to go and meet today on this reserve. They rescued 2 elephants, but because they were hand reared, they're too attached to humans, so they can't be truly wild, and they have to have their own guides with them to give that human companionship, bless them, because otherwise they become a challenge. So we're going to go and have a chat with those later. But let me just turn around so that you can see the distance and the scenery that we've been in. So if you can see over my shoulder there, sometimes it gets too bright, but that's just a small part of the game reserve that we have been driving around. This morning we saw cheetah, we saw leopard footprints, we saw rhino, and of course it gets to the point where we don't even mention the fact that we've seen water buffalo, that we've seen wildebeest, zebra, giraffe, numerous deer. So it has been a truly magical experience to come out here, a real gift. And this is the essence of why I've created my business the way I have. This to me is a wealthy life. That opportunity to be able to do the things that you want to do, to visit the places that you want to visit, to experience, to learn. And you can only do that when you control your finances and you're clear on what it is that you want to spend your time doing. It could be with your family, as I am with mine, the lovely Bob, which I think is probably just going to walk back to our little house. There he is, going in our little house, with dear friends that we've been out here. What do you want your life to be like? And now set your mind to it. Look for the lessons that are all around you. Look for those metaphors that can help you achieve what it is that you want to achieve. And if you're struggling at any point, of course, get in touch and I will be delighted to have a call with you. Thank you very much for listening as always. Please make sure you like, share, follow. Please leave a review. Reviews are so important for other listeners. And of course, there are just going to be, I think, 4 or 5 episodes that I will publish through the podcast, but the rest of the videos that I will do, I will publish via the channel on YouTube. So make sure that you go along to YouTube and watch all the rest of the videos that go with the podcast and the extra podcasts that I just publish via YouTube. Thank you very much again. Vicky Washay signing off from A Wealthy Life in KwaZulu-Natal, Zululand, South Africa.